Isaiah Grant back with Thinking in Circles. I'm back to read a few things for you guys that I've been really chewing on and gleaning as it concerns the Daimon and the daimonic phenomenon and its processes, which have really been enriching my life behind the scenes as I'm starting to see how this figure is that which actually encloses and encompasses what I have come to know of what the Ruach is, you know, the soul, the air, wind, spirit, and mind, and how this is an initiating factor in each and every one of our lives. However, there's certain levels that you have to go to with inside of yourself in order to understand what it is bringing to you within the realm of initiation and individuation. Now, what I am actually going to do is give out a formula here in this short lecture, and I'm going to try to keep it as short as possible through some notes that I've written down. And what's going to end up happening is I have lecture previous to this. I have this lecture as well, and then I'm going to be taking a little bit of a hiatus from this page. I've left a lot of material that has led me to some really amazing conclusions that have actually in my life brought about some real synchronistic events that have been both for the better spiritually for me and also physically for me, you know, in the realm of actual tangibility. And I have some things that I really need to attend to just in my life as it is normally. And when all is said and done, I never put this page together for viewers, for numbers, but much rather to leave the right people with information that will guide them rightly should they so choose to hear with ears of understanding and latch on. Okay, so I may put this on the screen when I edit this, that way you guys can go back to this formula. Okay, but the formula that's going to go with this whole talk, right? And then once I elongate and expound a little bit on this, I'm going to read something else that I wrote and put together, because the Tree Numen, which Carl Gustav Jung talks quite a bit about in some of his works, and the Hamadryad, Hamadryad linking to the cross of Christ, and the serpent in the tree. There are a lot of motifs that have been spread throughout Greek mythology. Would it be also Christian doctrine, Gnostic doctrine, that point to the same thing, that point to the inner teacher within each and every one of us human beings who are really Christ suffering, and that is crucified on a tree, which is the human body. Okay, so I'm going to speak this formula, which I'm going to write out on the screen. Okay, it may be a little bit much, but it will help you to follow along with the structure of this lecture. Without further ado, emptiness equals the glue of being. Okay, and we'll constellate such. Emptiness equals the glue of being, which is eros, and eros is basically the basis of desire. But if you think about it, the basis of desire is emptiness. Okay, Buddhist teaching will teach you this, that, you know, the whole doctrine of shunyata, emptiness, we'll talk about that desires are based in emptiness. Okay, so without and I write here in brackets, without awareness of lack, there is no longing or basis for such. So this will give you the answer to, like, how could that be? How could the root of desire be emptiness? Okay, if you think about it, if you didn't have the feeling of lack in your life, there'd be no reason for longing or basis for such. Okay, also, for example, there would be loss of projection, and loss of projection in Jung psychology even talks about this. If we weren't projecting on objects, on groups, people, the weight of our shadow, the weight of what's going on inside of us, maybe that we're not quite understanding because of participation mystique, or because we don't want to face certain things, you know, within the shadow. We wouldn't project it onto others, okay? So a loss of projection equals death, and it may be just a psychological death. You know, you definitely want to get up and eat. You definitely want to follow out or handle out the basic instincts, okay? And some of those would include, Jung talked about hunger, sexuality, activity, reflection, and creativity. There'd be no need for it, okay? So Eros desires, okay, desires express and constellate logos. If you desire for something, if you want something and you're trying to create it out of nothing, ex nihilo, out of the darkness, out of the abyss, and then, you know, to say let there be light, that would be to constellate logos. So Eros expresses and constellates logos. Logos equals patterns of meaning, also instruction, also word, okay? So I'm going to begin reading here, and I'm going to put that up on the screen. That way, you know, it might come up sporadically just so we can follow along, okay? The Daimon in the timeline of our consciousness stirs emptiness into longing, which is Eros, shapes Eros into words and symbols, logos, makes silence and emptiness to speak that to speak. It makes the emptiness itself speak. It brings a darkness and formlessness into a palpable understanding through maybe symbolic resonance, symbolic understanding. That's why it's really, really, really important that we all begin to understand certain symbolic sets of from different mystery religions. That way we can go back and understand some of these cryptic messages that we're getting from the psyche, okay? So logos makes silence and emptiness to speak. This is what makes synchronistic times out of what is known as the Negredo. You know, times when you're going through sadness, times when you're going through just the worst times in your life, you know. So many people will stay stuck in that, and they don't see what the greater reason for the Negredo is. They may perchance, so that the psyche doesn't invert and just totally fragment and destroy itself, they might get to a point of the Saturnitas, you know, the next stage, or the next stage, the albedo, the Saturnitas. They might touch some modicum of the rubedo, but everything short circuits so quickly, you know, and before they know it, they're back in the Negredo again. And there are a lot of constructs that we tie ourselves to within society that almost ensure this, you know, because we end up erotically just wanting to chase the desires, the pleasures, and we don't see the deeper reason, and we don't even allow the deeper reason to come out of what it is that we're striving for, you know, which is a logoic function. A lot of times we find ways of chasing out the machinations that our dark minds wanna find a way to put together and put into realization in life. But a lot of times it just ends up to create for us another death, if not actually a physical death, a metaphorical death, in which we're back in a state of longing and sadness and worry and despair, okay? So this Negredo is what we were talking about, okay? And the thing is logos will enlighten those times and allow you to get past the Negredo, and maybe to create something out of it so you can pull yourself up out of the situation, okay? So when one must confront the shadow contents, okay, times when projections drop off and one must go within, this is what we're talking about, the Negredo. There's also the solutio, okay? And no alchemical work can be done unless things be made water, okay? So that's solutio, but solutio in and of itself links with Negredo, and I'm going to throw the solutio chart up there. That way you can see that it links to the Negredo, which will be called mortificatio, okay? So when we go within, right, to the depths of the unconscious, this is supposed to be the time of unburdening, okay, of dissolution or solutio, of washing away from the ego its grave impurities. And only what is righteous then will remain. Only good things will remain after that washing away and purging these things out. And many of us don't get to this part of looking and seeing, why are we in this state, why are we in this position? Let's be humble and let's get this stuff out of ourselves. Let's wash these impurities away from the ego so that we can see clearly and move ahead. Okay, only what is righteous then remains after that washing, which is the motif of the story of the flood of Noah. Okay, to accomplish this feat with emptiness at the center is to align with emptiness at the root of all being. Okay, and I would, if you want to look into two teachings that have this at their core, okay, see Wadat al-Wujud, Wadat al-Wujud, and that is a Sufi teaching, Sufi Muslim, okay, or also look into the Chinese Wu Wei, okay, doing without doing, okay, to begin again, which is what that solutio would be, okay, is to uncover, especially if it's the true solutio, which leads to the conjunctio, that's what we're all trying to get to, okay, is to uncover the Rashith Hagilgalim, the beginning of whirlings, okay. And keep in mind, Rashith also speaks towards the head, okay, the head that's seeing, that's going in all motions, okay, and these motions are the four quadrants: thinking, feeling, sensation, intuition, east, west, north, south, spinning along that center axis, okay, which is you, who the real self is. That's what the tree represents after a large way, okay. This is to see the swastika, and I'm not talking about the perversion of such by Adolf Hitler, but I'm talking about what the swastika really meant. I'm going to put a picture of that up here. To enter upon the meaning of the fig tree. It wasn't an apple in the Garden of Eden that was eaten. It was, I think they call it a ficus cicanda or something like that. I'll put the name of the tree up there, though. It was a fig tree. Okay, and in the Bible, there's much to be spoken about the fig tree. It's in a lot of the Christ's parables. Okay, it's to enter the meaning of the fig tree, the serpent, and the mystery of the imago figures of the primordial mother and father. To attain to the head is what entering into this solutio mystery, which the conjunctio usually comes afterwards, okay? And keep in mind that if you spell out, and I'll talk about that as we go further in this lecture, if you spell out the fig tree, the serpent, the mother, and the father, if you spell that out in Hebrew, you'll get 1032, and that's like saying 1000 is God, big Aleph, 32 is all the paths in the tree of life, the 10 Sephiroth, the 22 paths, you know. It's all things, it's everything. You'll attain to everything if you can get to the bottom, and if you can master this mystery, if you can experience this mystery, bring yourself to experience it. And that's by taking a right attitude to the solutio, which swallows up, these waters will swallow up the Egyptians, the non-knowers. I've spoke about that in a previous lecture. But to the alchemist, it's the waters of salvation, okay? And keep in mind, 8 were saved. 8 human beings were saved in the flood of Noah, but everything else was washed away. So what's righteous continues on and propagates, and what is basically frivolous and BS, we can say within the psyche and personality in this solutio period, is washed away. It's dross at that point. It's basically like burning the dross away from the lead and the things in the alchemical retort. Okay, so to embark upon this is to ever know the mystery of how the 4 arms of the fly foot cross whirled around their central point, and is also to know the key, how stillness from whence this mystery which we see in disguise is that from which everything came. And this stillness, be still and know that I am God, you know, which is like almost spoken from the higher self. Be still, this stillness that we need to have in times when our life is falling apart and reconfiguring. It just looks like the end, but there's a reconfiguration that is approaching out of that. Okay, so continuing forward, we need to recognize emptiness, and I'm going to put a kanji up there that is called Rei. Okay, emptiness is the friend and the teacher, although we wrongly know it as death and obstacle. It is rain scattering into drops. And this rain scattering into drops is precisely the one spark turning into many different sparks, becoming many different sparks. Got a little mat in here. This thing is annoying. It's becoming many different sparks, okay? Many different sparks. And each of those sparks are the light that lights us, the light that keeps us going, the light that is our life. Okay, and we can call those logoic figures, but even matter, all things that our consciousness can be attuned to and turn to, matter has sparks in it that we must reclaim, regain, and also bring back to the source. And there have been Gnostic mysteries that talk about this, returning these sparks back to the source. There are Gnostic stories that talk about that's actually what we're doing with our lives in life and through death, you know, and you can find that in the Manichaean myths. Okay, so, or the Manichaean mysteries. Okay, so this kanji Rei represents a friend and a teacher. Okay, this emptiness, this zero. Okay, the zero from which everything comes from, the zero that compresses a center in the midst of itself, and that center, which is one great light, how it breaks off into many different sparks, okay, which is all creation, okay, and which is in all creation, the basis of such. We could even look at that as the atom, and it sounds like I said Adam, and I really am almost saying Adam, atom, that holds together everything at its core. And if you look at an atom deep enough, right, past the quarks, past the gluons, there's emptiness there. There's emptiness there. Emptiness is the base usability of all things. Okay, so this kanji has the meaning of zero, lack. We talked about lack in this lecture earlier. Emptiness. The Japanese resonance of this kanji speaks towards spirit, also order, which is logos, and companion. Okay, all of this out of nothingness, zero. And there's an old glyph of this kanji, or that expresses where this kanji came from, that shows a cave, and in the center of the cave is something that looks like a Roman numeral 1, but we see in that from that nothingness that we go through the emptiness, that something must be done, that there is an idea that is formed, that even as it's been said, nature abhors a vacuum. Something will come out of what it seems like are the nothingness, the nothingnesses of our life, of what it is that we're going through, of what it is that we're experiencing. Okay, so emptiness, I write here, is both lack and companion, scattering and ordering. It's the scattering that leads to the ordering. Okay, and there are some runes that I may put up some short descriptions of, so you can see that these also have something to do with what we're talking about here now, which is really a great mystery. We're embarking upon the knowledge of zero, and also the knowledge of how it became to be one, which means that this would apply to many, almost to any of the psychological transformations that we will go through in our lifetime. Okay, so and the most important ones we will go through our lifetime. Okay, so those two runes are Hagalaz and Nathiz, or need. Okay, it is, now I read also too, it is, emptiness is the teacher of Eros and Logos. Okay, it's the teacher. It teaches us about both of those things. Okay, because one will give birth to the other. Okay, and for example, I also say that thus it is the corpus of divine and demonic tutelage or teaching. Okay, so I'm gonna run through a little bit of an elongated version of, you know, what the equation is that I gave out earlier in this lecture. Okay, so zero, or nothingness, right, is the basis of individuation and gnosis and all fears. It's when fear and anxiety turns into wonder. Okay, when the Hebrew pachad, okay, which is terror or fear, turns into irat, which is wonderment or amazement at what is really going on the bottom of these things, so that you can get the most out of the transformation instead of succumbing to some stupid action taken out of what you truly believed out of fear was going to happen in your situation. Okay, so emptiness, okay, we'll say emptiness is the womb of all, and it is also the tomb. What do we fear out of emptiness the most? Is death, erasure of the ego. It's really the ego screaming out for help, trying to grab for any little thing so that it can preserve itself. Okay, and over this we also have ATU number 13, which ATU is talking about the tarot card. Okay, number 13, which is Nun, or death. Okay, the Hebrew letter is Nun. It's the death card. Now, every time somebody gets a death card, if you've ever had a tarot reading or you've ever read for yourself, people panic when they see that death card a lot of times, because they don't understand the mysteries of what death means. It's transformation. Everything has to die off in order for something new to come in. Okay, so it's a cyclical process. It's something that washes things away only to bring new things in. Okay, Eros has to do with this as well. We'll say being Eros, it births desire and passion, and it is also the glue of all things. Okay, now emptiness, we could say, represents depth, profundity, and silence, which brings forth idea. Okay, Eros, B, represents the inkling, or and maybe the beginning of mind and truth. Okay, how one feels attached to something, how one links something, because it's subjective feeling, and object. Okay, and what occurs to link one in between both of those. Either you like it or you're absolutely and totally repulsed by something, right? And these two, emptiness and Eros, A and B, speak towards conjunctio, or Eros glue. It's funny that we're dealing with these first. Okay, the conjunctio first. Okay, now C would be logos. This is what comes next. Now A, B, and C, ideologically, one brings forth the other. Okay, C would be logos. Okay, this is word in life. Okay, it unfolds patterns, word, and magnetically attracts all things into order. Okay, this is where we get symbolic messages and different things like that come in, that need to be decoded if we had the right doctrine. Okay, and I'm speaking of how Nas, the serpent Nas, brings the signs of the Father down to man, who is a sign of the Father, who has the right doctrine to receive the signs, and how Nas also takes the symbols and signs back up to the Father. Edward F. Edinger talked about this in his Aeon Lectures book. Okay, now from Logos, C, we get D. Okay, which is the anthropos, the divine man, and the church, okay? The word and the life, okay? And then we have, what does this boil down to when we're getting these messages and everything, and when we're being enlightened by these things and vivified by these symbols and dreams and things like this, these messages that we're able to decode, okay? These synchronicities, these congruities with certain things that are occurring. This is the anthropos, the divine man, the church, and both the logos and the daemon, which is D, okay, linked to ATU 5, which is the Hierophant. The Hierophant represents a teacher. It links God and man. It represents a nail, something that links something from above down to the below. It's a symbol of life, as opposed to A and B, emptiness and eros, which are death, okay? That's why it's stated in scriptures that the carnal mind is death. If you just stay carnally minded, if you don't understand what your desires are for and what they're pointing to, they're pointing to the teacher, okay? So the daemon is the teacher who reveals this whole idea that I'm giving you here, this whole liquidated truth serum idea here. The daemon is the teacher who reveals this to us post unburdening, basically post washing this stuff out of your ego, washing the desires away out of the ego, especially the fear-based desires that are causing you to just want to act. By humbling yourself in this time, you'll be able to see the truth and step out based upon the pattern and the direction that you're getting past what you want for you, the false you in the situation, okay? So the daemon is the teacher who reveals this information post unburdening, okay? And keep in mind that the daemon is also whom the serpent, Christ, agathos daemon, I'll put some pictures of those up, etc., because there are many other figures of sacrificial gods, sacrificial deities, serpent deities, and things of these nature, which represent wisdom and tutelage, okay, in many different myths, across many different myths, okay? After this unburdening of the lust to save the ego, I don't want to die, the false I don't want to die, I don't want to lose these things, what ends up happening is external compulsion is removed, and also the need to worship. Because why? This is the divine man in the church, the worshiping, the communion is happening within. There's nothing external to worship anymore, okay? And also the daemon promotes the same type of compulsion or worship, you could say, from the internal world. So the true worship and the true compulsion, what you feel like you must do, comes from the inside to the external world. But how does it happen this time? Is it happens through synchronicities. It happens through situations that occur that make you know beyond a shadow of a doubt, that you know, like Carl Jung stated, that there is no believing in God. I know God. I know, and he wasn't talking about God as far as like religiously, but beyond a scientific doubt that there is the numinous within us, okay? So we've gone over this here, and I hope that you were able to get this. You might have to run it back, okay? But right now we're going to talk about the motif of the tree in the Garden of Eden. We're going to talk about also the agathodaemon, or not agathodaemon. We're going to talk about the Tree Numen, known as the Hamadryad. And keep in mind, a Hamadryad is a serpent. Hama means one or together. Dryas is, or dryad is, a tree. Okay, so being one with the tree and one and together, that ama also speaks of something that is occurring at the same time. So we have the idea of synchronicity here as well, though, too, okay? And if we understood by one of the last things that I read, when we're talking about trees and serpents and the daemon, we're talking about also Christ on the cross. We're talking about these things, the life inside of us that is in this body of pain, torment, and suffering. Okay, what you're seeing is not a human being, but Christ crucified on the cross, suffering daily, being proud, being happy to serve the one, the Father whom he is one with in this body, in this life. Okay, you're seeing these things in your own physical representation before us all as well. Okay, so like I'm not going on some crazy cultic stuff with you, but I'm just explaining to you a very old and hidden truth about what these mysteries express. Okay, so I'm gonna start reading here. Okay, about a number that is actually encoded in the idea of the tree of life and also the Eden motif. Okay, and its equivalency with Kether, which is the crown, which is also the swastika, which is the higher self, the first Sephiroth on the tree of life. Okay, so I write here in the Edenic myth, so talking about Eden. Okay, we encounter the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Okay, the serpent and the primal figures of the mother and father, which are the imagos. They're also referred to as, okay, and also the primordial father and mother. Okay, and they exist in the realm of the archetypes. Okay, at first glance, this story basically speaks of disobedience, temptation, and the fall of man. This is what we've been taught in church, right? Yet when we turn to the image through the lens of Kabbalah and Jungian psychology, a deeper current is revealed. Okay, through gematria, we get that the tree, the serpent, the mother, and the father equal 1032. And I'm going to give you the exact letters so that you can do your own enumeration. Okay, and then the sphere of the premium mobile, which is called the Rashid HaGilgalim, also equals 1032. So in this picture that we've been seeing, we're looking at the dynamics of the self. We're looking at the dynamics of the self right there for us to see plainly. And we don't see it because we don't know the symbology. But slowly but surely, it's supposed to act as an encoded message to bring us into this knowledge. Okay? For those of us that will pick up the knowledge of the symbology. Okay, the premium mobile, or the Rashid HaGilgalim, is the outermost sphere, the source of all motion in the universe. To equate Eden with Kether, the crown, is to realize that the very imagery of man's fall is identical with the highest archetype of divine unity. This is not coincidental at all, but it is of archetypal necessity. Carl Jung observed that the tree is one of the primordial images of the psyche. In dreams, myth, and alchemy, it appears as the axis mundi. So that's the center of the world, okay? The center stem connecting heaven and earth and underworld. He writes, the tree is an archetype of the self, that totality which unites conscious and unconscious, divine and human. The tree's roots sink into instinct, and libido. Its branches extend into the heavens of spirit. It nourishes like a mother, yet it stands erect like a father. It is both womb and phallus, shadow and crown. Okay, so the tree is a mother and libido symbol. Okay, and it acts as a symbol of the self. It's very important to remember. Okay, very important to remember, because you're going to see it everywhere in all these tree myths and all these myths that contain trees as central symbolism. All right, even Mercurius in the story that Jung recounts about the spirit in the bottle. Okay, and you can go look that up. The oak tree, okay, and in the Dryad or Dryas is an oak. Okay, that they're talking about the center of the central pole of the world as well, though too. The bottle is found there with Mercurius inside of it. Okay, and Mercurius is supposed to be like, where's Mercurius live? At the North Pole. Okay, he's supposed to be said to live at the North Pole. This is pursuant to other mythology that Carl Jung writes about as well too. So coiled at the base of the tree, especially in Norse mythology, lies a serpent. Jung called the serpent an image of libido, the chthonic instinctual life force. In alchemy, it corresponds to impure sulfur, and that's really big, that we need to think about impure sulfur. The impure sulfur is that which needs to undergo cleansing and solutio, but it's that which is one of the most important things in the work, because sulfur also corresponds to the daemon. Okay, this is how we're gonna run into that which we need in order to gain that link to the divine. Okay, we need to be acquainted with our darkness. That's why shadow work is so important. Okay. Impure sulfur is volatile, dangerous, but it can also be, and it really is, the very substance that can ignite our transformation and transmutation. To eat of the fruit of the tree, seduced by the serpent, is to become conscious of one's own drives. This is the dawn of self-knowledge, but it's also the exile from innocence. We by chance had to go through everything that we had to go through, especially if we had some type of tumultuous life that we once lived, things that we've gone through, in order to come to an understanding that we need to make purification in our lives and change and become something more, especially if we can link to these divine potencies at the root of our psyche, especially more so if we can do that. Just changing, just becoming like the rest of everybody else. Okay, then you become part of the collective conscience. Okay, you become part of the collective. Great. Now, okay, you're getting along with people. At least that's what most psychologies would allow you to do, but you fall short of individuation at this point. Okay. So in Kabbalistic vision, the serpent is not the enemy. It is the energy that climbs the tree of life. The same current depicted as in the idea of the Kundalini in Eastern systems. The serpent at its root is the same power that becomes the crown, or reattains to the crown, that allows that our consciousness rises on or rides on in order to attain to the crown. Okay, that's another way of looking at it as well, though, too, and it's very well psychologically correct. Okay, so when we look at the Kabbalistic tree, we see the mother and father flanking both sides of the tree. Okay, and these are Chakma and Binah, the primordial polarities of form and force. From their union, we also see Kether, the crown. Okay, they're linked to that. The Edenic myth and the tree of life correspond exactly. Okay, tree is basically the self or central archetype. The serpent is the libido or the drive that animates. The mother and the father are archetypal polarities, the imago. The fruit of the tree of life is consciousness itself, not just the fact that we can have awareness, but the understanding of this awareness, the integration of what awareness actually is and what it's for, and it's so that we may link back to our original seat at the head of the divine. Okay, so there is another little equation that I'll throw out here to you that will help you to understand that the serpent, Nas, and I talked about Nas just a few minutes ago, the Logos in Christ, and also the Anthropos, which is the Principium Individualis that Jung talks about. They're equal. Okay, serpent, Nas, Logos, Christ are equal to the Anthropos, which is the Principium Individualis. This is the key. In Gnostic texts, Nas, the serpent, is the revealer. In Christian myth, the Logos is the word through which all things are made. And also we have to keep in mind understood as well too. In alchemy, the sword is the discriminating mind, cutting truth from falsehood. All these images converge on one point: the Anthropos, the primordial man, the archetype of wholeness, the original man within. Okay, the original man within. It's bringing things back to that image of God by which we all are made off of, and people say, oh, well, man was created in the image of God, only man, but woman was taken from the side of man, and this original Adam was also both male and female. So that image that the original Adam was actually a composite being of male and female, which would suffice both sides of the contrasexual aspect of either a woman or a man, animus or anima. Okay, so just so you know that this pertains to everybody. Okay. So the serpent, when integrated, becomes the logos. The logos, when embodied, becomes Christ. Christ is nothing less than the archetypal self. Okay, Jung and Edinger spoke of Christ being the symbol of the ego self axis. Okay, and that is the principium individuationis. Okay, thus the serpent of Eden and the premium mobile of Kether are not opposites, but two poles of the same reality. The energy that casts us into division is the very energy that leads us back into unity. Imagine that. So the fig tree is of the species called Ficus carica. In the rabbinic tradition, the fig tree is often identified as the true tree of knowledge. Its leaves became the covering of Adam and Eve, symbolizing both concealment and revelation. And if you think about it, what did they do with the covers? And you see it in the pictures. They put the fig leaf over their sexual members. Now, we've always been told that sexuality is, it's because of sexuality, and even some Gnostic sources gave that the eating of the tree was a sexual act with the serpent. Okay, let's not look at all that, but let's say that maybe sex has a big key to do with it, and sex is at once the unity of opposites. The unity of opposites is the central theme in psychology. We have a left brain, a right brain. We have a soul, we have a spirit. You see what I'm saying? We have consciousness and we have super consciousness. We have the ego, we have the unconscious, and both of these things need to be brought into a rapport with one another. Okay, so the fact that they covered their physical members spoke to also a much higher faculty within them, because in the tree of life, the ninth Sephiroth sits over the genitals. Okay, the second Sephiroth, which is the original Adam that was male and female, okay, is the equivalent of 9 because of the equivalency of the Masonic grades of 9 equals 2 and 2 equals 9. 2 degree equals 9, 9 degree equals 2. So we see the symbology there, showing that the genitals, or the sexual aspect of man, especially when conquered and brought into a right relation with spirituality, is going to avail us much. It's going to avail us much, because it's sexuality that links us to propagation here on earth, that causes us or spurs us towards following out material desires. And when we get past that, we end up looking only for desire towards divinity. Okay, so the fig with its hidden seeds, okay, and sweet interior, is a perfect emblem of gnosis, knowledge that both wounds and nourishes. Okay, so this is basically what we get out of this whole thing. Eden is Kether, okay, and Kether is here in the head. Okay, it's here in the head. Eden is here, a place in the head. Yeah, maybe Madonna was right. Heaven might just be a place on earth. Okay, the serpent is not the adversary, but is the lower reflection of the crown. And if you think about it, we use as if terminology a lot of times to uncover the truth in dreams. And if you think about this, right, it's been said of guys, and mostly of men, like, oh yeah, think with your big head and not your little head. Don't be thinking with the lower portion, which most guys that are like that, they're running around trying to sleep with everybody. You know what I mean? Think with the neocortex, the new wave of consciousness, and then you'll see how this is the master over the rest of this, right? So the mother and father are the generative polarity that as one are equivalent to the self, because from Kether come Hakama and Binah. Okay, so it's a matter of bringing those things back together in order to restore the original unity. Okay, the fig tree is the symbolic body of man, the axis of individuation, and we will see that. And I'm going to put some short information up here about the Hamadryad. Okay, I'm going to put a few slides up here about the Hamadryad so that you can really just see how this was something that was understood in Greek mythology, and how it was just thrown out there. And I've always found it to be in the weirdest, like it was the weirdest place thing, like a tree that has a spirit inside of it. That's kind of weird, and it could be a seductive spirit, it could be a saving spirit. Okay, and if you think about Mercurius, this we're talking about none other than Mercurius when we're talking about the Anthropos. Okay, Mercurius can trick, because the trickster links to Mercurius, and then also the Salvator, because he used to help people out of so many different things, help so many different heroes via cunning and via wise ways, and via herbs and different medicaments that he knew about to overcome certain situations. Okay, so I'm gonna throw some slides up about the Hamadryad, and show you a little bit about the etymology, because the whole secret is also hidden in the etymology. And if you care to jump past a lot of the deep digging into these studies, you will find some truth serum there in what I'm going to throw up here for you guys, and probably what's already up here for you now. Okay, so the fig tree, and I'm also going to say is the Hamadryad as well, is the symbolic body of man, the axis of individuation. To fall is to begin the journey. To integrate the serpent is to ascend. To eat of the fruit is also to awaken consciousness. Okay? Individuation is nothing less than the realization that the serpent and the crown, the head, where Eden is, we said, where Kether is as well, though, too. Okay? They're nothing less than the serpent and the crown, which are the same number, 1032. Okay? 1032. The imagery of our fall is the imagery of our return. The archetype of Eden is a veiled form of the tree of life, the self, and the Anthropos. And the Anthropos is a big underlying word in all of this, because the truth is in the Gnostic cosmogonies, they talk about the Anthropos, the primordial man, the original man. And I'm gonna be so honest with you guys, like, out of all the different things that they talk about in lectures on analytic psychology and even Gnosticism, you will not find too many lectures that are speaking about the image of God, the Anthropos, or any of these things. You're not going to find this, and it is only in getting an understanding of how to waken that sleeping giant within yourself that you are going to find not only the greatest peace in your life and in your living and in the death that you have to go through and the fears that you have to fight through in your life, but you will also find a power unlike you've ever known. And once again, like I said, this Daimon, or this Anthropos, this original man, this sleeping giant within you, encapsulates the Rashid, the Ruach. Okay, it's using your senses and all these things to speak to you, to initiate you, to guide you. However, if you do not know the language that it's speaking, it's gonna pass right over your head, and you're not gonna get any of it. And it will be, and you'll find that it has been speaking to you all of your life. If you trace the visions that you've had, the dreams that you've had, in which it has shown itself to you, you will find that there is a regularity of the ways that it's shown itself to you that are unmistakable. So throughout my whole life, it has been trying to speak to me and show itself to me. But all these dreams and all these visions and all these different things have just gotten all jumbled up. Why? Because of the many different ways and the many different parts of the psyche from which we see from our point of view that which is occurring. And because we're in such a split brain mentality, we see so many things as separate instead of seeing them within the context of unity and originality, in which they still honestly and truthfully are. Okay, so I'm just gonna end this by saying Jung put things this way. Okay, he said the way is within us, but not in gods, nor in teachings, nor in laws. We are the way. And that's something really big to think about, because it even speaks about in the Bible that we have a law that's written on our hearts. And I'm even I mean, the whole Bible, once you get the contact with this link to your divine self, it will show you that even these scriptures that you read, even you know, the Gathas, the Vedas, whatever you're gonna read, it will be read in an inner way. Not in the exoteric way. You will receive an inner reading of what this means, and you will know what it is saying because you've understood the symbolism. Okay, and that's what we're all really truthfully longing for, is an unbridled communication with the divine. And I put this lecture together for you guys so that you guys could probably better than anything else start to approximate yourself closer to what that is and to that truth. Because the thing is like I said, you're not going to find many to any lectures on this topic. I am going to have to wisely put together hashtags that I can almost breadcrumb lead individuals into actually finding this topic, which is going to be pretty interesting in doing. But I had to put this together for you guys because I am going to tend to some things that are kind of outstanding. My life is reforming quite a bit right now, in some good ways. I've been going through a lot of growing pains. The Negredo phase has been you know, a constant occurrence and reoccurrence in my life as of lately, and it's just, I've been learning so much through it. And I just wanted to share these insights with you that I have been gleaning through pain, and they have been coming not without guidance. I've been having some of the most descriptive and guiding dreams that I have in quite a while. Even my lesser dreams, you could say, because you have great dreams that show you like really divine imagery and stuff like that wow you. But even the lesser dreams that are less spectacular have been giving me just straight head-on knowledge of things. And I would suggest that as you're chewing on this knowledge and as you're bringing it into the core of your being, and you're doing your best to try to find a way to enact this, if you're gonna go that deep, that you get silent, that you make yourself one with nothingness and emptiness, and then the voices will speak out loud. Then the truth will become open, known, and clear to you. I thank you for taking your time to listen to this short lecture. And not really so short, because we're almost here, an hour in, but everything so needfully said. Thank you for taking your time once again, and I'll be back at you guys with more stuff. It'll be this lecture here, and I have another one that I'm going to throw up here on the page for you guys that I recorded and also edited quite a while back. I just have not really been having the time due to many more things that are being put on my my workload and just life load anyways, that are nevertheless changing me for the better. And when I do come back here, I'll be sure to let you guys in on everything that's going on, and enlighten you guys further for those of you that find this type of material enlightening. Thinks again, Isaiah Grant, Thinking in Circles, and I'm out.